Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hi, from wherever you're watching us, or if you're just listening to the podcast from wherever you're listening to us. So, this is the first episode from the KaiZen podcast. And I have a special guest with me who is Grazzia Mendoza Chirinos. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, Grazzia.
No, you did well.
Thank you. Thank you. So, thanks for accepting my invitation first. And I'm glad to have you as my guest. And I'm so impatient to listen to your story. And now, after the IKIGAI International Podcast experience, I got used to asking about a life experience. But with the KaiZen podcast, we're going to have a much more deeper experience when it comes to KaiZen and the KaiZen theory. And let me just introduce in a nutshell what is the word KaiZen. So it's a combination between two syllables, as usual, KaiZen, which means together a theory of positive improvement. Just like the word Zen, Zen, we got used to the word Zen a lot in our everyday use. So today we're going to Kaizen together, Grazzia. So welcome to the podcast. So the first question, who doesn't know Grazzia? So everyone knows you in the TESOL field, Grazzia. But let us know now, what is your background? Who are you? And who doesn't know you? If they're going to watch this podcast, they're going to know more about you. So I'm glad to have you. Thank you.
So I don't know that everybody knows me, but I know that a lot of people know me.
I do.
and
I'll tell you how
and
I knew you after this. Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
so I have been an educator for 30 years. I have been teaching all levels from kindergarten all the way to higher education, master's programs. And I have been working primarily in Honduras, and I have been a teacher training for teachers worldwide. So I've been delivering workshops, hundreds of workshops all over the world with TESOL and the different TESOL affiliates. And I have had the opportunity to meet people from all over, and teachers from all over, and learners from all over the world. I have also been part of different initiatives with the State Department. So, through the State Department, I have had the opportunity to train teachers of English and to work with teachers of English in different places. I have had the chance to work with a group that is called LAC TESOL, Latin America and the Caribbean TESOL, where we have affiliates and English associations from all over Latin America, and where we are supporting teachers in Latin America as well. So I have had the chance to do many things. Most recently, I was working with USAID in Honduras, and we were working to support the Ministry of Education to design and organize quality of education, to support the social emotional learning skills development of learners, and also to contribute to workforce development. So it's education always, but for development. So I have had the opportunity to be in different places and do different things in this 30 years of career. So that's a little bit of me.
I think it fits very well into the Kaizen theory, and now I understand why you accepted immediately by invitation, because you kind of embody that into the development aspect. You had it, and you have it, and you have that still growth mindset. So I still believe in growth mindset myself. And I'm going to start by asking you, Grazia, when it comes to your community, let's say the community you are part of, if you're part of one community or many, and you mentioned that you help other teachers prosper, let's say, in other words. So can you tell us a little bit about the set of skills that a leader should have? Let's say, not in the common, let's say, vision to leadership. It's like, how can I say this? It's like, it's how a leader can be himself or herself, not only the role model, but the person himself is like shows the aspects of how people should treat others, of how people should maybe be empathic about other people, how you help other people grow in a certain sense. So, and can you link this to your context, please? Because I'm very interested. With Latin America, I had only two guests, and so you are the third one, and so really interested to know more about teachers all over the world. And how do you see this?
Yeah, so there are many questions in your question.
Yeah,
So I
no,
will
I'm
start.
sorry.
No, don't
You can
worry.
pick up any one
So
of them if you want.
thinking about my community and what I have done for my community, it's a great thing that you ask this question. It is a great thing that you asked this question because it has always been in my experience, and because of the way that I started as a young teacher with no experience and zero background. Because when I started teaching English just because I knew English, not because I had a background in teaching or not because I was an expert in the discipline. Somebody said, "Well, you have very good English skills. You should be teaching at this binational center," and they gave me a job. And I didn't know anything about teaching. But when I got there were people there that were ready to support me. So because I started very young and people were ready to give me that opportunity to grow in something that I had zero skills at, then that stayed with me. And whenever I went to a different place or to a different situation, I would help others learn as well. And so, talking about my community and how I have contributed to my community, I started the first English Teacher Association in Honduras, and this has brought together a lot of training and a lot of professional development for over 3,000 English teachers in my country. And we have been able to set up mentoring programs for the teachers, opportunities for them to improve their proficiency skills. In Honduras, usually, for people to be an English teacher in elementary. And this is the case in most of Latin America. And I have recently learned that sometimes in the United States, this happens as well. So you only need to know the language to teach it. So it's like, and you don't have any skills. So the association has focused on giving teachers the skills, but also the proficiency to teach a language, because sometimes it's only because they have been 6 months in the United States that they start teaching English. Also, because of the work that I did with USAID for education and development, I was able to impact with the work that we did with this 54 million project. We were impacted over 500,000 learners directly and over 2 million learners indirectly, because all of the methodologies are incorporating into the Ministry of Education. And we trained like 60,000 teachers, over 10,000 youth, 6,000 volunteers. So it was like a huge project over 6 years to support quality of education. And then with what you were saying about leaders, I think what I have learned, not only from leadership training or from being part of organizations, but what I have learned is in my experience, both as somebody being that has been led and both as a leader, is that a good leader is someone who is open-minded, and is also able to listen the needs. Sometimes as leaders we think, oh, I think this is the solution that will work for this context. But when we go to the context, we learn from the people there that the solution they need is something different. But if we are leaders that are open to listen and to understand the real needs, then we're going to be leaders for change. Otherwise, we're going to be good leaders. It doesn't mean that we're not going to be good leaders, but we're not going to create the change that is needed where we are in that context. So I think that summarizes a little bit of your questions. I hope I did a good
Really
job.
sorry, like I just put a lot of questions in the same question, because like I was, my podcast is like, even though I have kind of it's like an operating system, like I have the process in itself is like to keep it as spontaneous as possible, and sometimes I came up with a series of questions all at once, and thanks for your patience and for navigating all questions all together. So the next question, Grazia, is like, what do you think is the role of teacher associations in professional development, and not even professional, like personal professional development for novice teachers? If this is a question, this is my question for you. So for novice teachers, what kind of piece of advice can you give to a novice teacher who is just initiating, let's say, a career in ELT and still don't know how to navigate that. So, what is the role of teacher associations? If we can just maybe summarize it in few words, maybe.
I think teacher associations and their role will depend on where they are. And telling you about, for example, our teacher association in Honduras, it was born because of the need of lack of professional development for our teachers. But also, as we did our needs analysis of what was needed, we found out that yes, the teachers need professional development as everywhere in the world, but they also need improvement of their proficiency skills. They also need how to apply to grants, for example, to get technology into their classrooms. They also need to learn how to mentor each other and how to support each other. So it was not only the need of professional development, which is usually what as an association does, but it was the needs that were contextual. And you're going to find that other associations like TESOL International Association, for example, TEFL in the UK, are serving populations that have other needs. And these are more international and they have that strategic big picture. And then the local affiliates or associates are doing what they need to do depending on their context. So we do learn from what the International Association is doing because they bring all the trends and innovation because you have speakers from all over the world from different contexts. But we also have to learn as an association that is local to a country to adapt what is needed to the different contexts I need. So I think a successful teacher association would need to focus on what is needed. Now, for a teacher that is new to the profession and wants to engage in an international or national association, my advice is go. Don't be discouraged if the first time you go, some things don't happen the way that you were expecting them. And I can tell you as an anecdote, my story when I started and mainly the reason why I organized the Teacher Association in Honduras is that in 2007, I went for the first time to a TESOL International Association convention. My colleague that I was with whom I was working at the university told me, have you ever been to an international TESOL convention? I said, no, I've been to the local affiliate conferences and I like them. They're nice, but I have never been to the international one. He said, do you want to submit a proposal? And do know, he said, that there's only a 21% acceptance rate. So we might submit it and we might not get accepted. And I said, well, we already have the no. Let's work and turn it into a yes. And then, fortunately for me, it got accepted. So 2007, I'm going to TESOL International Convention in Seattle, and I am presenting for the first time. It was like first time convention, first time presenter. Wow, this was like, I went there, I fell in love with the place. It was overwhelming because it's this huge convention with over 6,000 teachers from all over the world with ideas. And I wanted to attend all the conferences and I couldn't. And it was like, but it was a rush. And it was like something I said, well, not everything went the way that I was expecting, but
Yeah.
I'm coming back next year. And I haven't missed a convention since 2007. So it's like you go in, of course, not everything is going to be the way that you like it, but the expectations that are not met, you go the next time and they're going to be met the next time. And
Yes.
then TESOL became my love and my professional home. So I would say any novice teacher, engage with your local or international professional association, and you will definitely get a lot of things. Go with an open mind, and everything will work out.
Yes, yes, yes. I definitely agree with you. And I had my first convention. I attended the first one virtually, and I always wanted, like this year, for example, I wanted to apply to be presented in person, but time was like really so tight. I couldn't apply, I couldn't submit a proposal, but I said, no, I'm not going to give up. Maybe next year, maybe the year after. But the impression that you talked about, I had it even on a virtual convention. It was in 2021. It was with a post-COVID. And I liked the platform so much. And I liked the aspect how it was all organized, even the round table discussions, the workshops, the events, they were so very organized, and it gave me an idea about an international, because I've attended in my country here in Tunisia a lot of teacher development opportunities and a lot of conferences, but the TESOL International Convention is one of a kind, and it's nothing like is like equals the feeling that you have meeting people from all over the globe, and learning from others. And this leads us to the next question, which is, because I was mentored even in TESOL International Association, and I want to ask you a question about the value of peer mentorship. And do you think it's a sustainable approach? For example, in communities where we have, maybe in countries we lack resources, maybe we lack maybe funds. So how can this be established from a colleague to colleague, do you think it's sustainable? Maybe people can get benefit of this, and do you think we can sustain this in the future with teacher associations? Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and I have many examples that I can give you, but I think I'm going to stick to three different examples. And I'm going to give you a local example, which was my experience with USAID. And what we created was pedagogical circles. And in these pedagogical circles, the purpose was to do two things. It was to allow teachers to share their experiences in the classroom, how they were implementing the new methodologies that we were bringing to them, and talk about what was working, but especially reflect on what was not working and why. And then uh, among this group, they would come with solutions. Like they would say, oh, well, for that particular problem, I have done this. And so they were peer mentoring each other. Then another example is when I was working at this agricultural university, we created, and I created this peer observation process. And this was not evaluation, because people and teachers usually we don't like evaluation because it makes us feel anxious, just like our learners, right? And what I did was we would go into the classroom of another teacher. It didn't matter if I was an English teacher and somebody else was a math teacher, that didn't matter. I would go into their classroom. We would have a pre-conference and we would talk about what we wanted that person that was going to observe us to tell us about or to observe. And then we would go to the actual observation, and then we would meet again and we would talk about what happened in the classroom. And we were all colleagues. We were all teaching at the university level, and we were able to support each other and grow together. And then there are mentoring programs, like the mentoring programs that I have been a part of, like, for example, Equal Voices in ELT, which has their mission on mentoring women to become presenters in conferences worldwide. And what we have been doing is we have been mentoring women in Africa, in Serbia. Right now there's a program that is coming in the fall for Algeria, in Latin America. And what we have been doing is supporting them to become presenters and empowering them to understand that they have the skills and the ability to become presenters. So if you notice in these three examples, it's all people that are in the field, that are connected, or not necessarily in the field, but we work in the same place. And the idea is that we build that circle of trust and we build that level of communication where we are able to say, this is not working for me and I don't know what to do. And it is okay to say that because we have that safe space to have those conversations. And it allows people to learn from each other and share. And I think, and especially what my life has been, as I was saying at the beginning, I have been with people that constantly share with me. So I have the need to share and I have the need to bring others to something that I learned and like, you should learn this. It is really good. And sometimes people like to do that. And sometimes people say, no, I'm not interested, but that's okay, right? But as long as I know that I'm sharing, it's okay. And creating these spaces for sharing are really valuable and really positive, and it builds that collegial environment that we really want in all disciplines, not only in English, but in all disciplines, right? In the end, as educators, we are teaching learners who are going to be the future of our countries and the future of our world, and we want them to grow with that instinct of collaboration and sharing and growing together and supporting each other. And I think English associations have played and play an important role in bringing people together to precisely do this. So it is really relevant, and I'm glad that you asked that question. Very important question.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate what you said. And I believe in the collective energy, in the collective mindset. You know, knowledge does not belong to anyone, especially nowadays with AI. So why just keep it for oneself? It's like I learned how to be generous. When it comes to teaching, when it comes to professional development, because that's who you are. That's you present your authentic self to your students, you present your authentic self to your colleagues, and that really enables sustainability, like to kind of last longer, you know, because sometimes people, in professionally speaking, they can pretend to be someone else, but either you like it or not, there will be a particular time where they won't be able to navigate something which is not really them, does not reflect who they are. So my next question is, for example, in countries or in places where people lack resources, lack support, like everything necessary to grow, to Kaizen, let's say, don't you think that the quote which says, if you can't find an opportunity, create one, is valid in this case? For example,
It is
teachers to
completely
teach.
valid.
Yes.
It is completely valid. And I can tell you that there are ways to do things. And sometimes we only need to connect with the right person to lead us to that. I can tell you from my experience, and I have been very fortunate to work very closely to the US with the US Embassy and the relos in our region. And they have funding for people in low access places to fund different initiatives, and those initiatives are changing sometimes, but they are usually directed to quality of life, quality of education, making sure that people are thriving in their communities, and supporting them in different things related to technology, related to development. Because of this work that I have been doing with the embassy and the relos, and that I have directed people to apply, I have sometimes mentored people in how to get a successful application in to get a grant. I have gotten multiple grants with the US Embassy and the relos. And there's always this language that you need to use that really creates an impact, and to make sure also that your activities and your objectives are meeting the expectation of what the funding source is about, right? And then from this evolved into applying to grants with the British Council, for example. And then, so there are many people out there. You have embassies, you have relos, you have the British Council, you have the Hornby Trust. There are many organizations and foundations out there interested in funding low income resources countries and teachers to allow them to build a better environment for the learners. And I'm going to give you an example of a wonderful teacher that I know here in Honduras, who right now we're working on an application for a grant, because she works in a very rural area in the northeast of our country, and she wants to bring a computer lab to her students. And she's doing such amazing work there. And what we're doing is I am mentoring her. She already wrote the proposal. This upcoming months, we're going to submit the proposal, and hopefully we're going to get it. If we get it, I'm going to let you know. And then she's doing so many great things for her students. So it is possible. And I'm telling you, because Honduras is like the second poorest country in the world. So if we are able to make it happen in our country, it is possible anywhere. So that's all I can say there.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing this. And I'll be so impatient to know the results. And I'm sure that she will get the project executed in the best possible way. And the Kaizen theory is kind of not segmented, but it goes through a process, let's say, that everybody's talking about. It's 10 steps, but I do believe in surpassing that, any concept. So I did the same thing with Ikigai. So I went beyond the diagram and the intersection. Now I'm doing the same thing for Kaizen, the 10 let's say, principles of Kaizen, which is the first one, never stop. The second one, eliminate all practices. The third one, be proactive. The fourth one, don't assume new methods will work every time. Make corrections. It's good that people can review and can adjust so that they achieve the best results. The sixth one is to empower employees. Now, here in our case, empower teachers to speak up their truth, to speak up for themselves, to crowdsource, as well. Is like here to create a continuous improvement. It's like we don't stagnate on a particular point, but we just go exponentially from that. And also questioning things, reflection on what the practice and what we do. Be economic, just like we talked about, is like achieve the goal, and maybe in let's say in low budget or low income context with what we have. So do what we can do with what we have until we can have better, so that we can do better. So I believe in this as well. And finally, never stop. Never stop learning, never stop being good, never stop inspiring others, never stop learning. And here I'm going to ask you the question about lifelong learning, Grazzia. What was the last course you took very recently? If you're interested in taking courses, maybe online or in person.
The last course that I took was one that I needed to take for my new position. So I have been in a new position for the last months at the University of Wisconsin. It's a remote position with them, and I'm a researcher. So I had to take this course about human subject research and understand what are the ethical aspects of research and the things that you need to take into consideration when researching, and especially in our field where we're doing research with teachers, with learners, with the parents, and with the community. And so all of the ethical aspects. In long life learning, I am a long life learner. I am in constant. I tell everybody that I know and that I meet, it's like the day that I stop learning is the day that I'm gonna die. Like when I don't have that opportunity, that's gonna be my last day on earth, because I'm constantly evolving, and I think personally, I am constantly seeking into what I can do better, how can I become a better human being? How can I be of service to others? And which ways to do that in a good way? And then analyze what I'm doing well, what I'm not doing well, and seeking ways to improve that. Professionally, I do it all the time. I engage in as many webinars or training or conferences that I can. I like to learn and bring new ideas and try them out and adapt them. And that's how I became like a leader in TESOL, because I was always getting new ideas and saying, let's see if this works here in Honduras. And I adapted it and it worked. And then I would go back to the conference and I would say, I got this idea last year. I tried it in Honduras and this is how it worked for us. So maybe it can work in your context. And I think it's important because knowledge is not static. Knowledge is constantly evolving. And you said it when you mentioned AI. It's like, this is a new thing. And as teachers, we need to incorporate it, because if not, it's going to leave us behind. So we're going to make sure that we're constantly learning and evolving with the times, because we shouldn't be afraid of change. We should embrace change. Of course, we should analyze what's happening and just not incorporate it as is. We need to understand what's happening, how it is built, and how it fits our context. But we should be able to embrace change, and we need to make sure to embrace it, because that new knowledge, that change is going to create added value for us as people and as professionals.
Thank you so much for sharing what you think about like change, and what you think about how being active in one's own community can lead us not only to find solutions locally, but also internationally speaking, because we learn from each other. It's like maybe an experience or a project that worked in your country can work well in mine. So that's how we share ideas and we connect. Both at the human aspect and human experience and professionally speaking. So the next question, Grazia, is like, I know already the answer, kind of, but I'm just going to ask you the question in a different way, so that to get you a little bit from the professional, maybe professional questions kind of style. It's like, when it comes to Grazzia, the person, um, and your decision making is like, do you kind of collect info and then take your decision? Do you kind of ask for advice from others and then apply it and then test it, then review it? Or maybe just generalize in that worked for maybe for that person, it can necessarily work with others. So how do you do yourself with decision making, Grazia? Thank you.
I think for me, it's a combination of things. It's not, for me, it's never a one-way path because I think that there are different avenues to get to where you want to be, either personally or professionally. And I think for me, decision making, it's a combination of listening to others' advice. I usually listen to others' advice, especially those people that I know have my best interest at heart, right? I listen to their advice. I usually look at others and their journeys and learn about what they're doing and how they're doing it. And I might not follow their same path the way that they did it, but I might take positive aspects and adapt them and then use them in my own life. And then I will also sit and analyze the situations. And I can give you a very recent example. And this was precisely accepting my new position at the University of Wisconsin. Never had I thought that I would move from my country to another country to work. That was never part of my plans because my plans were always I would stay in my country forever and serve my country the way that I'm supposed to do that. That was like my idea. And I did it in different ways, and I have done it in different ways over the last 30 years. But then I was faced with somebody saying, you know, there's this position out there. You would be a good fit. You should apply. And when I read it, yes, it fit my professional profile. And I said, well, I'm going to try. I'm very sure I'm not going to get it, but I'm sure it's going to be a learning experience. And then I went and applied and I got it. And then it meant to bring my family to a different country, to a whole different, not one that I was unfamiliar with, but because I'm very familiar with the United States because of the work I've done with TESOL. But it meant taking a personal decision of moving our life to another country and making our life somewhere else and adapting to things, right? While I'm very flexible and adaptable, I really sat down and listened to people and that told me, that's a great thing, you should do it. And like other people were like a little bit hesitant and they say, well, you should be careful, you know, you're going to adapt. It's going to be a different culture. Although you know it a little bit, it's going to be different. So I listened to people. I really sat down and analyzed if it was going to be a good fit for our family. And then I talked to my family, to my sons who are 28 and 26 and my husband. And we decided, well, it's time, it's a good moment, and we should do it. So I don't think that I have made personal decisions or professional decisions with one pathway only. I think it's a combination of many things that actually have helped me with that decision making. So I like to make informed decisions from what you can see.
Thank you so much. And actually, that's a really very, very pertinent answer because, like, we don't live isolated from the world. It's like, and especially if you have a family. So, I believe in democratic decision making, especially in the family. So, parents they ask their children because it's not like just they're going to carry their children like without asking them even for their point of view. And sometimes some children they found themselves like kind of dislocated simply because the parents they have to work in a different place, and it does not necessarily lead to good results. So it's good to have kind of a discussion. It's good to exchange point of views, and children and husbands so can be supportive for moms, because generally speaking, moms we are there for everybody, part of generosity. So, but sometimes it's like someone's destiny can change at any particular moment in life. It's good to have that support from the closest people in our surrounding, and be it a family. And in your case, I'm so happy for you for everything you did, Grazia. And last but not least, before wrapping up, so we've been working together, through one maybe or maybe many smart goals for how do you see Kaizen in your life, generally speaking? So, do you have like a prospective goal, be it on the short run or the long run? So, where can we see Grazzia in 1 year, maybe 2 years? How do you see yourself in the future, Grazzia?
So I think in 1 or 2 years, I specifically want to make connections from this institution that I'm working with institutions internationally. And I have already started with this goal. I have already started knocking on doors, talking to people in Mexico, in Paraguay, in Africa, in different places, because I want to make connections and I want to build what we're doing this here with multilingualism and bilingualism to make connections elsewhere. And specifically with higher education right now, and then in the longer term with other levels of education, but starting with higher education so that we can expand the research and we are making everyone aware of the importance of multilingualism and how this plays a role in language education. So that's my short-term goal, and I've already started moving those wheels. And fortunately, I have an amazing boss who is open to these crazy ideas of mine. So I'm fortunate in that sense, and I think it's has started really well, and I think it's going to be successful. So I will tell you all about it when I have reached that point in 1 or 2 years.
So much. And I'm open to partnership as well, because my institution as well is open to partnership. And I am the Partnership for Sustainable Education SIG chair with TEFL Kuwait. And with this interest group, it's open to everyone all around the world, be it parents, students, teachers, startups, people like not only necessarily teacherpreneurs, those working in the field of TESOL, but everyone who contributes to quality education. So a partnership, I think, is the future now. Apart from the SDGs, project, but I see partnership as an openness to oneness. Let's say we grow together and together, let's say hand in hand, but together, all together. So, I'll be glad to hear more of your short-term and long-term goals, Grazzia. So, the last maybe question is that I don't want this interview to be over, Grazzia. Have you visited Tunisia, my country, or not yet?
I haven't visited Tunisia, so I have added that to my bucket list. I was reading about it and I'm like, aha, I have to go to a conference there and then visit everywhere. So I definitely want to make it there eventually. And whenever I say that, I remember one time I said, next year I'm going to be somewhere in Europe, and I got to attend a TESOL summit in Greece. So I'll be there one day.
Luckily, so because Tunisia and Africa and we all of us, we work together towards the same goals, I'd say, and we're very close from Greece, culturally speaking, and even in terms of the weather, you'll have fun spending your holidays here, so you're very welcome here, Grazzia. But just don't forget to tell me once you'll be here, and I will let you know once I'll be accepted for my first in-person TESOL convention. You'll be among the first people to know, and I'll be glad to see you there if possible.
Definitely. And anything I can do to help, just let me know.
Oh, you're so kind. Thank you so much, Grazzia. And I said I don't want this podcast to be over, but I think we reached the end of today's podcast. But hopefully we will meet soon again, Grazzia, in future events. And thank you very much again for accepting my invitation. And I will let you add any idea if you want.
Just thank you for having me. Thank you for the invitation. I'm glad that you're doing this. This is a really good contribution for the field. So kudos to you for doing this.
Thank you so much. And I'm just going to keep this project ongoing for whoever wants to have a voice, whoever wants to contribute, whoever wants to maybe talk about his personal, professional experience. So it's an open podcast to everyone. So the KaiZen podcast is open, as I said, to a variety of teachers from all over the world, and diversity is key. So thanks, Grazzia, for being my guest, my first guest. And I'm really sure that won't be the last time we talk together. And just to wrap up and to say something really valuable about KaiZen that you really show in your professional, personal life. And starting from your experience, I'm just going to talk about the theory of Kaizen in a nutshell, just to wrap up quickly. Is like, evolution is good. Progress is so nice. But how many people started working out a day and they just ditched the exercise on the next day, or just forgot about working out on the next day? Many of them, among them myself. So I start running maybe this week, and I say, no, I'm just too tired to carry on with that. What about next week, until I keep on procrastinating? But Kaizen here is really fun. And how is it? It's like 1%, the way you see it, it can be 1% or 10% progress on a regular basis until you reach the 1,000 change, or 1,000% impact. And I think this is valid for teachers, Grazzia. And how do you see this, like with teachers, let's say, experienced and novice? So practicing regular, maybe good habits, until you can get them imprinted into your kind of functioning system.
Yeah, I think the first step is thinking about it and saying that you want that goal, and then taking those steps that will take you to that evolution, with keeping in mind that it's not going to be an easy road. It's not going to be a straightforward road. It can be a zigzag road, like my life has been. I have a zigzag life and journey, but it means that you have to take those steps. And it has to be something that you are intentional about, and making sure that you don't dismay. And if you need a support network, bring together that support network to keep you accountable. But making sure that you keep, like you were saying, those small steps. Nothing happens in one day. Like the saying goes, that it might be corny, but it's like Rome wasn't built in one day, right? So anything that we want in life, it's going to take those small steps. And the key is not dismaying, not straying from your goal. And you're going to get a lot of no's on the way. But when you get that yes, it's going to make you happy, and you're going to forget those no's. So small steps, keeping on that path, and making sure that you have that support system there to make you reach your goal. I would say that would be it for me. And that has been it for me. I have had amazing people that have allowed me to grow and thrive. And I am thankful. I cannot say all of their names here because I might leave somebody out, but it has been an amazing number of people that had helped me be where I am today.
There's a proverb, but please correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's an Italian proverb which says "Chi va piano arriva sano," like the one who goes step by step, piano, like softly, let's say, step by step, can arrive sane, you know. And I do believe in this. You know, we should be kind to ourselves and treat ourselves right, because we're not robots. We don't have to set goals, you know, and achieve those goals, you know, be it at the expense of our health, be it at the expense of our families, be it at the expense of our mental health. So I really believe that small steps can lead us to, just like, you know, the stairs, you know, you can't jump up the stairs on one go, but just step by step. And generally speaking, the first step is the most difficult one. So being kind to oneself is key, and being kind to others. And thanks for being so kind, Grazzia, and for shining and glowing in the ELT profession, for being an inspiration to everyone. And I hope that we'll be collaborating soon, maybe just chit-chatting. You know, we don't have necessarily to be like on conferences together, but having you is really crucial, in let's say, as a role model, as someone who made it, you know. And you prove to everyone that change is possible, you can make it, And regardless of the challenges, so once you have a dream in life, you can achieve it. Be it today or be like in 5 or 10 years, it doesn't matter as long as you achieve it.
Exactly. And also that those dreams can change as you evolve as a person. So,
Of course, this leads us to a question that I forgot to mention is like, can old habits lead you to new goals? It's like your goals can change over time. And the techniques, just like AI now has been introduced. So a lot of things they are facilitated and they're easier to everyone. So last but not least, thanks, Grazia, and hope to talk to you soon. Thank you.
talk to you soon. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye
Thank you.
bye. And thanks everyone for listening to the KaiZen podcast and tune in to listen to the rest of the episodes because this is just the beginning. And thank you very much and bye bye. Thanks.